Welcome to Finding Humans in Tech, where we uncover the extraordinary stories behind the technology shaping our world. This isn't just about innovation, it's about the people, the dreamers, the doers, and the changemakers, whose journeys remind us that humanity is the soul of every breakthrough. Get ready to be inspired, to connect, and to celebrate the resilience and passion that drive the tech community forward. Let's dive into the stories that prove technology is nothing without the humans behind it. There is a famous Spanish proverb, si te caes 7 veces, levántate 8, that loosely translates to if you fall 7 times, get up 8. This hermano, whose life has been an embodiment of strength and courage, had walked into a motivational group and left all the listeners clutching for hope in the depths of their hearts. This series is dedicated to the strong-willed abuelas, the resilient mamas, the unwavering papas, the little pocas, the fierce hermanos living and thriving in the heights, and to our sueñitos. The promise of the great American dream makes thousands of immigrants from far and near head to the States with a single-minded desire to make it in life. The Ortiz story is among the many stories that represent the soul of America and what makes the nation what it is today, born to 2 determined Colombians who wanted to make it in life for the better. So here's introducing our next human in the series, Alex Ortiz, from the city that never sleeps, a construction consultation firm owner with an electrical engineering background, and a mentor to a community of dreamy-eyed Hispanic students. Alex fondly recollects his early memories of growing up in a bustling city in Colombia. His father was the youngest in a family of 8 siblings and the first to head to college, thanks to the sacrifices made by his older hermanos and hermanas. The senior Ortiz got himself a sanitary and plumbing engineering degree and had a steady job in Colombia. His parents had married young, and he recalls how his 18-year-old Ma, the beautiful Libya, had to ask her teacher's permission to let her clear her high school diploma on time so she could get married. He chuckled and told me how even the teacher attended their wedding. They soon had 2 little boys of their own. That's when the young couple decided to risk it all by heading to America, as relatives who had immigrated over to the States would tell them there was an opportunity for their children to get a better life, and they were determined to make it. The family arrived in the States in the early 1980s, and he remembers the tense atmosphere at home in the initial years before their papers were in order and they couldn't put their guard down. He describes how he could sense the calmness at home once the legal papers arrived. That was a moment when they knew they would be all right. Located in Upper Manhattan between 155th Street and 195th Street, Washington Heights has been immortalized in several Broadway plays, movies, and literature. It's not just a melting pot of cultures, it's the essence of what makes New York what it is today. It's the neighborhood of dreams and hopes. It has historical significance and derives its name from Fort Washington, a strategic military location during the American Revolutionary War. It has now become a haven for immigrants from across the globe who call it their home. The Ortiz family was one such family that had arrived in the States and made the Heights their home. He remembers how every parent in his neighborhood had multiple jobs. Everyone was doing whatever they could to get by. It was a neighborhood of resilient and determined immigrants who all dreamt of the American dream. And motivation was one thing they didn't lack. He admits it was a cultural shock in the beginning. The schools and the students' attitudes were entirely different from his early years in Colombia. In Colombia, you were afraid of your teachers, he reveals. The States was different, and he had to learn to adapt early on. He also realized that the math taught in his old school was more advanced than he was learning here, which helped him excel in mathematics so he could focus more on learning English. He recalls how he was a part of this gang in high school called BTS, Brothers Taking Out Suckers, and Hot, Hanging Out Tough, and how their gang leader was his friend with the tag name Lazy. He admits, "We thought we were the coolest kids in town." I reminded him that BTS refers to a popular Korean band in the Gen I era. He chuckles and agrees that he won't have survived high school with such names at this age. He laughs and tells me how he was a skinny kid who barely knew English, and other high school kids would try to pick on him. He was encouraged to go to a gifted and talented middle school program as his grades in math were excellent. He would later attend Aviation High School in Queens, where he discovered his interest in all things related to electricidad. Electricity represents energy, life, he expresses. As a 13-year-old dreamy-eyed boy, he planned to become a pilot, but his interest in electricity made him realize it wasn't what he wanted as a career. He recalls how he started hanging out with the cool kids in the streets and saw how easy it was for him to fall into bad habits. In retrospect, he admits how there were several incidents that happened at that time, and the choices that he had to make that could have landed him somewhere else today. Alex recalls his dad, the senior Mr. Ortiz's first job as a real estate agent. It exposed him to the systematic racism that existed in that era, and how sellers would refuse buyers who didn't meet their prerequisites. He realized early on that you wouldn't make any significant bucks if you didn't play the game along and followed the system. The strong-willed Mr. Ortiz had not made his way to the States to lose his virtues. He decided to leave his first job and told his bosses, "It's not where I belong." That was when he would start taking up odd jobs, such as maintenance work to put food on the table. The senior Ortiz wasn't too happy about heading to the States then, but his wife, the resourceful Libya, was a force to reckon with in those tough times. She would clean apartments, work in salad bars in New Jersey, or drive vans to take kids to school. She would take any work to support the family. He recalls how his mom would get severe allergies in her hands from the chemicals used in her odd jobs, and yet she would show up each day at work to ensure her kids could have a better future. When the family acquired a van for Libya to catch hold of the school transportation business, she would become a legendary figure. New York City doesn't close during the snow, so naturally, schools would open during such weather conditions too. There were a lot of other vans in service, but she would always show up on time, no matter what, rain or shine. It earned her a bad rep among the other van drivers who would get told off for being late or not showing up, as Libya would always be on time. He tells me, "That's how I learned to drive in New York City." He would accompany his mom on certain days, and they would drive around the block looking for parking spots. Considering how congested NYC is, it must have been a task to get parking for such a sizable automobile. But the van was her lifeline, and I am sure it's Alex's too. Libya, the soul of the Ortiz family, wasn't just a mother extraordinaire, she was also the nucleus of her family. Alex recalls Thanksgiving dinners and Christmases when their 2-bedroom apartment would transform into this food haven with relatives from far and near squeezing into the limited space. My cooking skills are so bad cause my mom set the bar too high, he laments. He recollects steamy chicken stews, potato salads, and breaded chuletas. The aroma of Colombian delicacies would fill their home and bring them closer to a faraway homeland they once used to know. It was like a rite of passage for the next generation to learn their roots and their identity. He recollects how his mom would wait for him to come home in the summers, but he was hanging out in the streets and she would sleep off by the time he came home. It was a task to maintain a household while juggling several odd jobs at the same time. Libia was worried about her sons. He recollects what she would tell them. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you are with and I will tell you who you are. She was right about being uneasy about the company he kept, as he couldn't graduate high school on time. It led him to find an internship in a recording studio to earn extra credits. This stint introduced him to the music industry, which became an integral part of his journey. He remembers learning to DJ with his other brother and homies, who had DJ equipment and would throw house parties. I had to remind him of the popular mixtapes of the 90s. He excitedly corrects me and tells me, it was mixed cassette tapes. We laughed at the dizzy memory of the noughties and the hip-hop culture and its influence on most millennials who grew up in that era. Everybody did try to rap back then. He remembers buying rap records, making mixtapes of the hot and happening songs on one side and putting instrumentals on the other. He admits that it got him popular among the boys and girls. He was introduced to artists who had made it through some intense childhood traumas and hardships. They had a purpose and a message in their art. I realized I was just a slacker, he discloses. That internship with some brilliant record and sound engineers, and hearing the gritty insider stories of his childhood idols, propelled him to sign up for a Navy recruitment exam. This move was suggested by a concerned cousin who called him up over one summer. He was adamant that he would find his purpose too. He confesses that he signed up for the military assessment test to find out what he was good at. He had no intention of joining the military. He had just gotten out of high school, and he knew his parents had sacrificed a lot to come to the States, but he wasn't doing enough. When the assessment results came out, the recruiter basically said, "You could do whatever you want, kid." But that wasn't the answer he was looking for. He prodded him to suggest professions he could be good at. Sensing his reluctance to join the military, the recruiter told him to check out the engineering branch of the nuclear and electrical department. He confesses how nuclear was something he wasn't interested in. I don't want to be a part of something that destroys. That's when it hit him that his old friend electricidad had entered his life again. The electrical and electronics workshops he attended at Aviation High School were still fresh in his memory. He remembers how life flashed before his eyes, his classes on electrons and voltages, and his brief stint as a DJ working with amplifiers and equalizers all made sense at that point. He signed up for the electrical and gas turbine engine engineering branch. He recalls, "I saw an opportunity where I am fortunate to be here, and I could learn anything I want in life." He remembers how he breezed through the boot camp. Until then, he was a skinny kid, and the training helped him to shape up. His mom was scared to let him go, but he vividly recalls what he had told her. "I have to do something. I just cannot go the way I am going. I am going nowhere. He confesses that he feared failing at that stage. There was just too much at stake. But the universe had other plans for him. 7 months into the boot camp, he had forged a friendship with a few trainees, and they had formed a gang called La Migra. They would get into a lot of trouble and probations. By strike 2, he was discharged from the Navy. He was dispatched off to the captain's mast. The elderly military veteran instructor there took him under his wing. He was someone who came from the same block and understood the streets. He would advise, "We pick up bad habits, but you are gonna be alright, kid." Alex was still trying to figure out where his life was going, and he would ask the instructor what he should be doing. The instructor's reply was similar to the recruiter's open-ended response: "You can be whatever you want to be." That's when he realized how he needed to find the answer to that question on his own. He recalls how discipline in the Navy changed him for the better and made him understand how he could be whatever he wanted to be by learning to apply his interests to subjects that intrigued him. He had finally found the confidence he needed to follow his heart. Alex was determined to follow the electricity he felt in those engineering classes in the Navy. When his probation ended, he went to City College to sign up for the electrical engineering course. It all made sense, as he had once toured the college in middle school. City College was right in the heart of Spanish Harlem. It was affordable and local, and he could still return home. There were several financial aids on offer for minority students as well. His Colombian heritage and a desire to achieve the American dream fueled his resolve further. Having seen the sacrifices and choices his family had made each day, living from paycheck to paycheck, he would try to make it right this time. He was in the country of dreams, and if he didn't use the opportunities before him, he would say, "You are a big fool." City College wasn't your typical Ivy League college, but it had a soul. Most students who signed up for college had odd jobs and were determined to succeed. He recalls how one of his classmates, a heavily pregnant Monica Coronado, a mother of 2 from the Queens, had to beg her professors to let her take her finals earlier to graduate on time. She was expecting her 3rd child any day at that point. The system didn't allow her, but as luck would have it, the baby waited till the finals were over. She gave birth 2 days after her finals. He smiles and says, "It was like even the baby knew Mama had to finish college." She was one of the 2 people on his team who had keys to the office he could acquire in his final year for the social club. Dorms were yet to be available at City College. It was a small office with a refrigerator, sleeping bags, and a computer desk. The space became a sanctuary for people looking for a room to study in. The college didn't lack such inspiring stories. And he proudly told me about how he was elected the president of the LAESA for a term. The LAESA, or the Latin American Engineering Student Association, was one of the largest student organizations in City College in the 90s, with around 110 members. The social club was active in mentoring high school students to encourage them to apply to college and find companies and organizations that would provide internship opportunities for the students. It was indeed a thriving community. He explains, "We were all determined to make it, and we were all going to make it through together." The support system he had in college helped him bag several internship opportunities at noted companies like Xerox, Sony Studios, and Bell Labs, to name a few. He adds that out of all the internships, Sony Studios gave him an opportunity to meet J-Lo, and I bet it was his favorite. That's when he would recall his mom's quote, "Tell me who you are with, and I will tell you who you are." He was now surrounded by professionals and determined people who wanted to make a better future for themselves. Alex had finally found his purpose. At City College, he reconnected back to his roots and found a way to give back to the community and the people that had made him who he was today. He fondly remembers how his beloved teacher, the Irish-American Mr. Sadowski, had pulled him up once and asked him to sign up for the physics classes on offer. He would tell him, "Are you stupid? Don't you want to head to college?" He was puzzled by how he had enough credits to make it to college, and his teacher insisted he take up another coursework. His answer was probably no at getting to college at that time, but he had to say yes to his favorite teacher. Mr. Sadowski probed him further. "Are you rich, kid?" "Nope," was his reply. And that's when his teacher would reason him out. "Then how will your parents feel when they realize you could have taken this class at high school, and now they have to pay for it in college?" He admits how that little nudge from his teacher helped him ace his engineering classes at City College. He would later help Mr. Sadowski bring over around 30 talented students each year to the college for conferences that Leisa would conduct till his retirement. Mr. Sadowski would later confess, "Every teacher's dream is to hear that he made a difference in a student's life. Not everyone gets to see that, but you did that to me. I could see how he has passed that baton to Alex and how he now volunteers in organizations like HISPA, Hispanics, Inspiring Students, Performance and Achievement, and is selflessly giving back to communities in New Jersey, New York, Florida, and Texas, to name a few. He is now an inspiring mentor to many, but he hasn't forgotten the couple of mentors he had, like Mr. Vincent Amirato, who introduced him to the world of construction and fieldwork. He encouraged him to get his professional engineering license. His love for the outdoors was something he inherited from growing up in the Heights, and which inspires his work to this day. Seeing his designs come alive in the real world has always given him immense gratification. Learning programming in college opened him up to numerous opportunities in the tech industry, but he didn't feel the kind of freedom he felt being outside. He remembers his dad, who was in his early 50s, heading back to school to become an environmentalist. If there was one thing that the Ortiz were passionate about, it was nature. He recalls how he would often escape the tense environment at home to head outside and clear his head. The outdoors represented libertad to him. In the construction industry, he met his mentor and partner for over a decade, Señor Hector Mena, a City College alumnus who grew up around the same block. Working around NYC for several projects was how he got inspired to set up his firm. This gave birth to Axon Engineering Services, his brainchild, to provide engineering services in all sectors. At last, he had found the freedom to create and find the American dream that so many pursue in their lifetime. Alex didn't just find his purpose, he also found the love of his life. He remembers seeing the beautiful Lorena in a copy store in Hackensack, New Jersey, near the office where he had his first job. He remembers how he gravitated toward her. She was too much of a girl not to talk to, he proclaims. He remembers greeting her with a hello, and her smile was the reassurance he needed to ask her out. And that Amor has brought them two little angels of their own, Tatiana, 13, and Samara, 11. The proud father tells me how Tatiana has a keen eye for art and is highly quizzical about the world around her. On the other hand, Samara has taken an interest in learning Japanese and spends her time watching anime. I had to ask him if his mixed cassette tape days were officially over. He laughs and admits how he now understands his dad so much better now. The senior Mr. Ortiz and Alex have now formed a closer connection as fatherhood has transformed their relationship, and they have bonded lately with their shared love for nature, science, and space. He laments, "Someday I will be a nuisance to my kids too, and I dread it." I remind him that the high school years haven't started yet, so he still has a good solid few years to be the coolest person in their life. We hope that little Tatiana and Samara will one day stumble upon this piece and realize the incredible journey their papa and mama have undertaken to be where they are today, and keep their little dreams alive in the toughest of times. Alex's journey isn't just about one man's success story. It's a journey of determined and resilient parents who would make it through all odds to ensure their kids had the life they could only dream of. His story represents a community of dreamers working hard each day for their American dream. Some make it and some don't. But they exist in each corner of the avenues, each salad bar in the uptown, each bodega right around the corner, each local taking the A, each restaurant lining up the square, each laundry and dry cleaner right around the corner, each yellow taxis honking at the streets, each salon in the locality, each vans dashing to make it to schools on time. You will find us everywhere. This is dedicated to our sueñitos, our little dream. This is only the beginning. As we wrap up this episode of Finding Humans in Tech, remember this: behind every line of code, every groundbreaking innovation, and every bold idea is a human story, full of passion, resilience, and the courage to dream. These stories remind us that technology isn't just about machines. It's about the heartbeats that make them meaningful. Keep on joining us in this journey of discovery and connection. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep innovating, and always keep shining the light. See you next time.